Hi guys, it's Kales, and long time no see. I'm back with my July wrap-up. It's already a couple weeks into August, and I finally had some time to make videos. I'm going to tell you about the 14 books that I read in the month of July. Since there's 14 books, we're going to go ahead and get started. Beautiful Music for Ugly Children is about this transgender man named Gabe who feels like he can only be himself on the radio, and his time of transitioning and trying to be open and honest with the people in his life, and he has this radio show and there's this contest and a lot of crazy things happen. I struggled with the voice of the character as well as the plot line. Also, there was so much music lingo, I did not know what to do with myself. I truly was like, I don't understand half of these references that they're making because I'm not as much of a music buff. So that was hard for me too, because it was just not my genre of knowledge, not my fandom. Then I read Neil Patrick Harris's Choose Your Own Autobiography, and I enjoyed this book. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars because I liked it. I enjoyed the most getting to hear about Neil Patrick Harris's honest stories of Doogie Howser and How I Met Your Mother and his relationship with his husband and going through the surrogacy process. I really enjoyed that. What I hated the most about this book was the format, because he's doing it to parody those Choose Your Own Adventure books, which are great, but it was so impersonal because he tells the story in the second person. So it's like you and David are taking a hiking trip to the Northwest Island. I read autobiographies to connect more to the person who wrote the autobiography and who I'm reading about, and it just felt very distant. But it was really cool. The insights onto, like I said, those shows, and his award show hosting was really cool, and I enjoyed that part. Oh my goodness, then I read Eliza and Her Monsters, and I thoroughly enjoyed this book. This is about this girl who writes this fandom comic series online, and everybody loves it, and yet she keeps her identity a secret. But I loved the characters, I loved the celebration of nerddom and fandom and art, and holy crap, I want her webcomic to be a real webcomic, please, like now, because it just sounds so cool. Part of completing my summer bingo board that I mentioned in one of my other videos was reading a YA biography, and so I read Temple Grandin's biography, which was fascinating. I find Temple Grandin to be one of the most inspirational people out there, regardless of her autism, and she's amazing and so incredible. If you've not heard of Temple Grandin, she's wonderful. Read one of her books, read this book, or you can watch the documentary on her. It's not a documentary, it's like a TV movie of her life, and it won a bunch of Golden Globes. Claire Danes played Temple Grandin, and it's awesome and so good. And so this was really cool to learn more about her in a simplified way, because it was written for a much younger audience than me. Then I read Mockingbird, which is about a young girl who is on the spectrum, and she loses her brother in a school shooting, and her mother had previously died a couple years ago, so it's just her and her father, and it is her search for closure after her brother's death and what that means to her, because those who have ASD are very literal. They tend to be very literal, and it is a very interesting examination on how somebody who is so literal, when she's told that closure will help her and her father, what does that mean to her and how does she find it, and about her making friends. And I gave this book a 2 out of 5 stars. I felt like that the character was okay, the storyline was heartfelt, and there were parts of it that I liked, but the whole overall thing was just okay. And again, it was written for a younger audience, so I still might recommend it to a younger reader, but it still just felt almost like it was trying too hard. Yeah, just not the best thing in my opinion. Then I read Habibi by Craig Thompson, which this book was a freaking whirlwind. It's a graphic novel about this young girl and her baby that she finds that's not actually her baby, but she saves him from slavery, and they live in the desert, and then they get separated, and then they come back together, and it's weird, and it feels a little incestual, and it's tragic and sad, and it feels more important than what I understood from it. The art was beautiful. That I can't get over. Craig Thompson is one of my favorite artists when it comes to graphic novels, and I loved his novel Blankets, but this one I just didn't quite understand it all the time, what was going on. It was confusing, but beautiful, So I just went with it, and I liked it. Just, I don't know if I understood it all the way. Then I was able to get back on my S'more Appears kick, so I read Paige, which is the second book in the Protector of the Small Quartet. That's the one. Protector of the Small Quartet, which is fantastic and good, and Kel is improving with each book, and as I'm recording this video, I've finished all of them, and they're so good. So good. And Paige is just an addition to that. Squire is most definitely the best out of all four of them. Yes, Allison, you were right. My friend who told me to read this series, she was like, Squire's my favorite, and yeah, Squire's the best one. This one, though, is a great precursor leading up to that. It's about the very first female knight who's actually going into the pagedom as a female and is not hiding her identity as a male, and it's great, awesome, Kel's fantastic, and yay. How to Be Interesting, an instruction manual, was just a really cute little graphic novel how-to book. I found it really interesting, funny, showed really cool graphics. I enjoyed this different way of looking at the world, and it was very anecdotal and, you know, little inspirational quotes, which I was happy with, and I wanted to copy some of them and put them up in my office or something because they were really good, and I enjoyed the simplicity of it. It wasn't too much thought put into it. It was just very much a page flipping book, and you felt all warm and fuzzy at the end of it. I continued the Alcatraz Children series with Al Capone Shines My Shoes, and this one was so much better than the first one. Well, yes, it was. That's not true. That's not true. I liked this one a little bit better because the adventure had higher stakes than the first one, and that was cool, but the rest of the storyline I was just kind of like, this is a little slow. So I think I rated it a little bit less. Regardless, though, I'm still going to finish the series. I still love it. It's about the true story of these kids on Alcatraz. The kids are fictional, but there were children who lived on Alcatraz at this time when it was an open, functional prison, and it's so interesting. All of the things and the potential escape routes, and it's so good. It's just such a great series. I'm excited for the third one. Then I read probably my favorite book of the month, which was The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, and everyone is talking about this book for good flipping reason. It is awesome and hilarious and heartfelt and funny, and yeah, there are things that it follows to a T. It's very Harry, Ron, and Hermione in that there's two guys and a girl, and there's they're all different. She's the smart one out of all of them. It's quite great. Monty and Percy. I love it, and I am so excited for the companion sequel, which is about the sister, and I just love this book and the adventure and the message, and while it seemed very plot-driven, the characters were vivid and awesome, and just, yes, I loved this book. Then I went from one of my absolute favorite reads of the month to probably my least favorite read of the month, and this was Wishing Day by Lauren Miracle. I did not like this book at all. In the very least, this was dumb, and I should have known the minute that I learned about the plot of this, which sounded really cute and sounded really interesting, because it's this girl who is part of this family. There's a little bit of magical realism where on her 13th birthday, she gets 3 wishes on the wishing tree, and then I got disappointed because her wishes were she wants her mother to come back to life because her mother is gone. She wants to be kissed, and she wants to be someone's favorite. And I was like, I do not want to read about this insecure little girl. I don't want to read about her struggles. The sisterly relationships were kind of cool, but the whole time I was just like, I'm not up for this. I don't have enough energy to put into this little petty girl that I don't care about. So I didn't like it. I finished it because I needed it for my bingo, but that was the only reason I finished it. Otherwise, I would have DNF'd that thing right away. Next, I read I Feel Bad About My Neck by Nora Ephron, which is like these thoughts on being a woman. It's a collection of essays, and I really feel like I was too young to read this book. She's like 60-something, which you wouldn't guess by how beautiful she is, but it was just a lot of stories about motherhood, which I don't connect to, and her third marriage, and I don't connect to that either, and just growing older, and I don't quite connect to that either. So it was good in that I think that there's true substance here. I just was not the audience for this book. That's how I feel about it, and that's why I feel no need to keep it. I am gonna unhaul it. I do love Nora Ephron's movies and her influence in the world of cinema and for female writers, but just not this at this time in my life. Does that make sense? I hope so. Next, I read a book that I was really excited for and ended up being really disappointed by, and that was Moriarty by Alexander Horowitz. And by Anthony Horowitz. I can get names right. Anthony Horowitz writes the Alex Rider Stormbreaker series, and he wrote these Sherlock Holmes retellings, and this one is about what happens after Reichenbach falls to Moriarty and Sherlock and these other two detectives that are like trying to figure out this underground thing with it. And the whole time I was like, where the hell is Moriarty? Why is this book called Moriarty when Moriarty's not in there? And I like figured it out. I was really upset that a Sherlock Holmes-esque mystery, I figured it out. And I just was like, this is not surprising. Was okay. Nah. I was just sad. It made me sad. I want to go back and read the originals because they're truly the best. Finally, I read A Wrinkle in Time, the graphic novel version. I have never read A Wrinkle in Time, but now I've read the graphic novel version, so I at least know the story better, and I found it highly interesting. It is great as one of the original YA sci-fis. Meg was whiny, and I struggled with whiny, and I struggled with the whole love is the answer thing, but it's okay. It's in everything. That's fine. And I'm very excited for the movie. This makes me all the more excited for the movie because now I know the story and I understand what the hype is about. I really liked it, and I'm glad I read it in graphic novel format. The only problem I had with this graphic novel was that it was all monochrome in blue, and I hated it because it made it a little confusing, and I would have much preferred full color art or black and white. Not the blue. The blue was annoying. Kind of hurt my eyes. Here are 5 of the 14 books that I read in the month of July. If you have any comments on them, tell me something you read. I'm sure there are millions of wrap-up videos out there that I just haven't watched yet. I'll get to them. And yeah, check out a new episode of Why We YA, which comes out on Tuesday. We're talking about sex in YA books, and is everybody doing it? We have a real live streaming book battles. It's going to be a real life book battles hosted by the Tattered Cover at Aspen Grove in September. We'll see if we get another book battles in before then, or right before then. I'm working on it. We'll see. Grad school's starting. Makes me scared, but that's okay. We still have books, and that makes the world better. Until next time, guys, bye! Next, I read I Feel Bad About My Neck by Laura Efrat. It's already a couple weeks into August, and I finally had some time to make videos, so I'm gonna tell you about the 14 books that I read in January. Nope. Not January, that was several months ago. I'm going to tell you about the 14 books that I read in the month of July.